Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining Lifeboat Distribution and Optimum Output for today's presentation about the incredible ROI and increased productivity made possible by BPR. My name is Don Grease. I am the Manager of Sales and Business Development here at Lifeboat Distribution. And today we have a very special presentation prepared for you. We are excited to partner with the software company voted Best Emerging Business Promise at the Lifeboat Distribution Cross-Channel Connection event held this past October in Atlantic City. That company, of course, is Optimum Output. Their product, BPR, the Business Process Recorder, has been catching on with customers all across the globe. In today's presentation, you will see and learn how this simple but powerful tool is helping organizations document their business processes and provide improved training for employees, partners, and customers. Joining me on the panel today from Optimum Output is Tejas Narukar, the founder of Optimum Output. Thank you, Tejas, and welcome. Now, before I turn the presentation over to Tejas, I want you to know that we do encourage you to ask your questions, and you may do that by answering your questions in the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of the screen. At the conclusion of the presentation, we will answer as many questions as time permits. And so with that, I'm going to turn over the presentation to Tejas. Give me just a moment. Okay, Tejas, it's all yours.
Thanks for that introduction, Don, and thanks to all the attendees for joining in today. Lifeboat has been instrumental in our launch. I'm the founder of Optimum Output. I launched the company about 7 years ago, and BPR is something that's come out of a lot of hard work. Our three offices really teaming together to make a product that we are very, very passionate about. So as Don has said, this past October at the Lifeboat Distribution Cross-Channel event in Atlantic City, when we were voted the Best Emerging Business Promise, it was great validation for the work we've done, that people really enjoy our product and that they see value in it. And I think the biggest validation was the fact that it came from the resellers. So when I launched this company and then when we later developed this product and we were looking for distributors to represent us, when Lifeboat came along, saw the potential in our product and immediately signed us on, we knew that there was going to be a great relationship there. And then when we won this award, it was wonderful to see that their resellers felt the same way. So thanks so much to the Lifeboat team for pushing us to really be in that event and then ultimately have some success there. So this company, Optimum Output, we've been featured in some leading journals and by some top institutions, University of Pennsylvania, Dartmouth, University of Buenos Aires. We've been in the Philadelphia Inquirer, 40 Under 40, American Mensa, and we've won some awards actually from a very big company called GlaxoSmithKline, who were one of the early adopters of our product. Today I want to go over the Business Process Recorder. I'd like to go over its functionality, but more than that, I'd like to present and offer our availability for any presentations that you want to do in the future with your customers. We're always available for demos to go over the way the product works, also how companies and your customers can benefit from BPR. So that's something I want to put out there before we even begin. So again, thanks so much for joining. And the Business Process Recorder, we came up with the idea about 4 years ago, and it was an idea that came out to solve one big problem, and that was documentation. All companies run accounting departments, all companies run sales departments, all companies run project management departments. Documentation and quality is something that all companies should do, but very few companies do it. Very few companies have process manuals, whether digital or physical, in their offices or on their servers because there were only two traditional options to documentation. And on the slide, you can see the top two, external consultants and existing employees. So traditionally, the way a company would document its operations and create these operations manuals would be to hire external consultants or delegate to existing employees, both of which cost a lot of money to those companies. So for example, if Lifeboat Distribution wanted to document all of their operations, the way they interact with vendors, the way they interact with resellers, and they wanted to create manuals so that they were a well-documented company, traditionally, they would hire an external consultant or a team of external consultants to come in, follow the staff around, watch operations, take screenshots, make these manuals. The consulting company would charge Lifeboat a good amount, and then they would be on their way. That poses two big problems. One, the cost, of course, associated with having a consulting company document your processes. But the second big problem that poses is when Lifeboat Distribution wants to update their processes, how do they do it? Do they have to re-engage that consulting company? Do they have to do it themselves? What can they do? So hiring an external consultant is very good at times, but it costs a lot of money, both directly and indirectly. The second traditional option to documentation, probably something that most small to mid-sized companies are familiar with, is delegating documentation to existing employees. So rather than hiring external consultants, having your existing employees document what they do every day to create manuals, whether it be sales or project management or administration or accounting, whichever department it may be, you would have those employees within those departments document those business processes. Again, it's expensive, but in an indirect way. You, of course, have to interrupt your employees' work just to produce that documentation. So really, when we had this idea for the business process recorder, we knew the problem. We had identified the problem that documentation was something that all businesses needed to embrace, and they did embrace, but they couldn't do it because they didn't have a tool that either they could understand or a tool that they knew about. So our mission was twofold. One, to create a tool that would quickly become the standard in terms of documentation, but two, create a tool that is very easy for users to use, a tool that is extremely intuitive. When we started the development of this product, that was our mission. Make it look almost childlike. Make documentation be very easy to that end user. So when I get into the product demo, you can actually see the product in action, and you'll see what I mean by its user-friendliness. So this just shows a little bit about what I was talking about, the three traditional options, or the two traditional options, and now the option of using the business process recorder. The two traditional options, both indirectly and directly, cost you substantially more. So this is a good way to communicate to your customers why they should deploy the business process recorder. Now I'm going to get into BPR and show all the attendees how BPR works. So again, our focus when we started the development of the product was around simplicity, giving users an easy way to document what they do. So I'm going to go ahead and share my desktop. And when I share my desktop, you'll see BPR right there on my desktop, and I'm going to launch the program. And when I launch the program, you'll see two buttons. Again, the buttons are big. They're meant to be very easy. You'll see a record button, and you'll see a menu button. The record button actually starts the record process, and the menu button gives you all the options to the BPR program. Now you'll see there are no menus at the top. There are only these 8 buttons. And we've made it this way so that even someone who's non-technical, for example, if a company is documenting their entire accounting department and they have a bookkeeper who is responsible for documenting that accounting department, that bookkeeper needs no knowledge of business processes or IT knowledge in order to document. He or she just needs to press record, execute a process, hit stop, and then save the process, and then that process is documented. So I'd ask you just to focus on 2 buttons, record a new process, and this button, the BPR editor. I'll get to these other 6 buttons in a moment, and you can ignore these 2 buttons, settings and exit. The settings just gives you some options within the program. So just focus on these 2 buttons. I'll go ahead and hit press record. And when I press record, you'll see a stop and a pause button introduced at the bottom right of the screen. And now I'm recording. Again, even this interface with the pause and the stop button is intended to be very, very easy. Now, the demonstration I'm going to give you, the recording demonstration, is within our company. So within Optimum Output, we have 5 departments: project management, sales, accounting, research and development, and admin. And within our sales department, we have 20 things that happen on a repeatable process. So for each of these 5 departments, we have our manuals documented, both physically and digitally. And one of those standard processes that happens every day within our sales department is entering leads into our Salesforce system. So that's something I'm going to show you how to do today. So I've pressed record. I'm going to log into our Salesforce CRM. And I'm going to enter a new lead into the system. So this is something that happens on a daily basis, whether we hire new sales reps, our existing sales reps, myself. Anyone who uses Salesforce is always going to be entering leads into the system. So when we hire new people, they're given that sales manual, and they immediately know how to enter a lead into our CRM. So I've entered a lead into the CRM, and before I entered it, I had pressed record. Now when I hit stop, you'll see it launches the BPR editor. So all the activity that I've done between the time I hit record to the time I press stop, it's tracked all of that activity. On the left side, you'll see the actions that took place. And on the right side, you'll see the corresponding screenshots associated with that action. So on the left, we call these process steps. And on the right, this is the corresponding screenshot. I can edit any one of these steps. I can highlight multiple steps, move steps up and down. I can add external steps, external forms, anything I want at any point within this step-by-step process. I can delete, undo, resume recording. So for example, this process has 15 steps in it, but I only entered Don's name and Don's company. If I wanted to make sure that the standard process included address, email, phone number, I could just press resume recording, resume at that point, and it would amend those steps right here to this process. Let me just go ahead and save this process. Now, when I press save, this is another very important feature of BPR. Most companies today, when they document processes, there's so much turnover that, let's say that one employee is tasked with documenting a process. They may open Word, take screenshots, write down steps, but then when they go to save the process, they'll name it as template 1, template 2, whatever it may be. So with this save as window that we've introduced, the user is forced to enter those important details that are associated with that process. So for example, this process, it's for the sales department. The process name is lead entry. The process purpose is how to enter a lead into the CRM. And the responsible person is, we can say, myself, Tejas. And the other important element to see is this revision 1. So when I press save, it saves the file into BPR, and then what you get is you get all of the different file types are saved with it. So these are all some sample BPR files that I have created. And now you can take that and you can export it to Word, PowerPoint, PDF, or you can even look at it within the BPR viewer. So when I go to the BPR viewer, for example, and I open up any sample process that I've recorded, what you'll see is you'll see a desktop on top of a desktop. And what you'll see is a step-by-step slideshow of that process. Now, while this is great, it's an always on top screen. So what happens is it blocks the screen behind it, because in any kind of training, you want to make sure that your application is sitting on top. So what we've also introduced is this feature called Quick View. When I press Quick View, what actually happens within the BPR viewer is that it zooms in on the area where that activity happened. So I can actually follow the steps while that always on top window is open. So that's our BPR viewer. And then we have 3 different export options: Word, PowerPoint, and PDF. Within Word, I can say export to Word, and I can choose any BPR file that I would like. You can see, for example, these BPR files. You can see revision 1 or revision 2. I've edited certain BPR files. I can take any one of those and export them to Word. So when I export them to Word, you'll see that on the cover page, you'll see it has those tags that I entered when I saved the file: how to enter a new lead into Salesforce, the responsible person name. And then on the subsequent pages, you'll see the action and the screenshot. You'll see the action and the screenshot. Similarly, I can take any BPR file and I can export it to a PowerPoint. If I want to do a sales training, I can say, okay, today we're going to be going over how to enter a new lead into Salesforce. And then I can go through step by step to show that user how to enter a lead, or show that audience that I'm presenting to how to enter a lead into the system. And then finally, we have PDF, which is very similar to Word. The cover page has the tags, and then the subsequent pages have the action and the screenshot. So again, very quickly, that's how our program works. The key feature is not just the record button, but it's also this BPR editor. When I open any file within the BPR editor, I can go ahead and edit any one of the steps and then save it again. And you can see automatically it'll say revision 2. So it's not just the recording feature that's very important. It's also the editing. That's really the advantage with our product, how quickly people can edit their BPR files. So what problems does BPR solve? The most important thing is, of course, that record button. It gives employees an easy way to document what they do as they do it. But as I've just said, the real critical element is it gives the ability for employees and companies to edit their processes as they change. For example, Salesforce will, I'm sure, update their system next year, at which point we don't have to recreate every single process. Those processes that change because the Salesforce system has changed are the only ones we necessarily need to update. The benefits of using BPR, again, if you just want to communicate to your customers that you can give them a tool that will allow them to create manuals for their entire business in hours and not weeks. So traditionally, something that would take 20 hours would now take a few hours, if that is something that owners will really hear as soon as you mention it to them. There are 4 ways to deploy BPR. It can install on any one of the 3 Windows operating systems that are common right now, XP, 7, or Vista, and we have trials for all of the workstations. But the best way to deploy BPR is through Windows Terminal Server. So any Windows server, let it be Server 2003 or 2008, running Microsoft Terminal Server, can install and run BPR. So you can install it once, have it run centrally within any organization, and have those employees that you give access to run BPR and document their business processes. And this is both good from a margin standpoint as well as to the customer. You give them a central way to deploy BPR. And the way licensing works is on the independent standalone workstations. It's a standalone 1 workstation license, but on Windows Terminal Server, it's a concurrent user license, and it's a minimum of 5. So you can, for example, pitch to a customer, you can buy 10 concurrent user licenses for Windows Terminal Server, even for your 100 employees. So they can get the benefit of 100 users just for a 10-user purchase. Target markets and who to target. Really, the most important element of BPR is who to target. It can be applied, of course, to any kind of industry, manufacturing, pharmaceuticals. We've sold to a lot of technology startups. So a lot of technology startups that are getting VC funding and hiring people left and right love BPR because they can document what they do and train people. But even for those small to mid-sized companies that don't necessarily have a huge injection of human resources or even a lot of turnover, they're also key because imagine people forget how to do things, and this gives all companies a depot on how to refer and view their business processes. But who to target within companies is something that's really important. While not the company is as important as who you're targeting within the company. Owners and COOs. CIOs, yes, but really owners, CEOs, and COOs are the people who see incredible value with this product. They'll view this product and say, we need it right away, because they understand how difficult it is to move in today's climate of, employee turnover, technology changes, and technology that changes all the time. This tool gives them a little bit of peace of mind saying, hey, things are changing, but this tool will help to give you a little bit of continuity. And I think that that's something that's very important to target to CEOs and COOs. And these two slides are something that you can, of course, communicate to those CEOs and COOs. How do BPR users save money? So these are some statistics that we've gotten from the U.S. Department of Labor. And it says that in today's climate of high turnover, the average employee, so mid-level employee, will change their job about 10 times in their career. It costs about $35,000 when a mid-level employee leaves, so both in indirect and direct costs. And you can see we've kind of put this together. This is an estimate, but still, when you position this against the cost of BPR, it's a great way to show owners or management how they can save money. And then to show to all employees, whether it's owners or people who are actually in the trenches and documenting, this is a great piece of information to show them that documenting with BPR saves about 80% of time. So for example, in this chart that you can see right here, that contact management piece, so we just entered a lead into Salesforce. Let's say traditionally, for me to create a Word document, take screenshots, paste them into a Word document, and save it, let's say that it would take, an hour. We did it together in 2 or 3 minutes. So it saves a boatload of time, and this is just one way to quantify it for them. And then why is BPR better? Why is it a good option? So one thing that I showed you was when we recorded that BPR file and I pressed save, it saved every BPR file as its own file. It's not a database-driven program. So it's just like Microsoft Word or just like Microsoft Excel. When you create a new Word document, you press save and it saves it as a doc file. The same way you open BPR, you create and record a process and you save it and it saves it as a BPRX file. BPR can work in multiple monitor environments. So whether it's finance or high tech, a lot of different users today have 3, 4, sometimes even 6 monitors. And we've been presented with the question, BPR is great, but can it handle these complex multiple monitor situations? And the answer is yes, it can handle those. It is a very simple product in its presentation, but it's a powerful product in its functionality. You saw the different exports that we can give, and the other real key is revision tracking. Every time you record a BPR file, it gives you the revision 1. Every time you edit it, it saves a revision 1, but then it creates revision 2 and then revision 3. So you can see the history of that process. And then the biggest ROI, as I was explaining, is if you can deploy it on Windows Terminal Server, it's a great way to get it across the enterprise and have all your users touch it. And it's an absolutely great way to get employees engaged within the product. So I'd like to take this opportunity to transition it back to Don and field any questions that any of the attendees would have.
Okay, Tejas. Well, thank you so much for that great presentation of BPR, for the demo, and for really doing a great job explaining the value proposition of the product to customers who are faced with the challenge of not only creating their documentation for business processes, but the upkeep and maintenance of those business processes as well. I am just checking quickly here for questions, and I do have one. Tejas, the question is, can you print a manual for hard copy?
Yeah, so as I was showing the functionality of the program, you can export any one of the BPR files you create to either Word or PDF, and you can print them as a hard copy. So it's something that can easily be done. One thing that I think is very important is if you were to look within our shared drive, for example, with every company has a shared drive. At Optimum Output, we have a shared drive as well. And within that shared drive, we have a processes folder. And within that processes folder, we have all of the different processes documented. So while, yes, you can export it to any one of those formats, Word, PowerPoint, or PDF, really the product works phenomenally well also in a paperless and digital environment like ours. By using the viewer, any employee can go into that shared drive or that depot where you've saved those BPR files. They can launch the BPR viewer, and they can step-by-step see the steps associated with that process and actually follow that process at the same time. So you can do both, do it digitally, or you can do it physically.
All right, thank you for that answer, Tejas. We're going to move on now, folks, to our traditional call to action, but while we're going through this, if anything springs to mind and you do want to ask a question, we will continue to look for those questions. Actually, here comes another one now. So let me just back off of what I just said and ask Tejas, can the product run on a Mac with an Intel chipset?
So right now the product can't work on a Mac. It can work in any Windows environment, but right now it can't run on Mac. It can run, of course, on Mac if it's running VMware. So any Mac that's running VMware with the Windows operating system, it can. But on the Mac OS, just because most businesses out there are running Windows environments, we've made it for Windows operating system.
Okay. Next question says, we are a global company using Citrix. Can BPR be used with Citrix?
Yes, BPR can be used with Citrix. It can be used with remote login sessions. It can be used in any one of those environments, absolutely. The best result that you'll get is if you install BPR on that native system. So let's say you're using Citrix with a terminal server. A good way to install BPR is to actually put it on that terminal server. So when you record those sessions, it's happening on that Citrix server or on that terminal server. But yeah, it can record both a remote session or even when it's installed natively on that server that you're logging into using Citrix.
Okay. Once again, please continue to send in your questions, but I will review the call to action. And that is, we would like to encourage you all to visit the BPR website at optimumoutput.net. On the website, you can review additional product information, including video clips of business processes being recorded with BPR. You can find case studies, and you can also find product testimonials. Beyond that, I encourage you to contact Tejas for any questions you have about BPR and how it can be used by your customers. And as Tejas mentioned during his presentation, certainly ask to have Optimum Output demo the product for your customers. Tejas shared with me yesterday how they get great results when you are at your customer site and Optimum Output comes in and does the demo while you're there. It works very well. And Tejas, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that, as Don has indicated, a good way to understand our product is to actually go to our website as well. We've invested in a very nice video that not only introduces the problem that I was talking about, how companies really need a solution to document their business processes. It introduces the problem very simply, and it presents BPR as the solution. So it's a good way. It's only about 1.5 minutes, but it's a good video to maybe just to shoot out to your clients so they can see how BPR works. And then when they come back to you and say, we'd like a demo, my sales team is 100% available to help you and actually run that demo. So the best way we see success and the highest conversion of sales has been when our resellers will set up a meeting with a customer, we'll demo the product, and then we'll say, okay, we turn it over back to the reseller, and they can actually work to close the deal, request trials, all of those kinds of things. But within the product demo, it always works really well if you let us do that legwork for you. We also make it easier for you, and the conversion is a little bit higher.
Okay, and folks, certainly you can contact your Lifeboat distribution representative. My name and phone number is shown here, but if you have a dedicated rep, you can contact your rep. We'd be more than happy to schedule a BPR deep dive demo with you if you want to understand more about the product and how it can be used in your customers' applications. We will help you with any opportunity, including pricing or pre-sales assistance. I am just going to check once more for questions, and it appears that we don't have any additional questions right now, but keep in mind that if anything should spring to mind, if a question does come to you afterwards, feel free to contact me or contact Tejas. We're always here to answer your questions and help you introduce BPR to your customers. And so with that, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, let me just say for everyone at Optimum Output and Lifeboat Distribution, thank you for attending today's presentation. We do hope to hear from you very soon, and have yourself a great day.